Welcome to the Positive Persistence Podcast, where ordinary people inspire your extraordinary success. Hey, what's up, Positive Persistence family? Our guest today is Jason Nelson. He's the founder of Body Image Fitness, a transformative brand dedicated to healing the emotional and mental battles surrounding body image. His journey from Trinidad and Tobago to the U.S. was filled with challenges, but instead of giving up, Jason turned adversity into strength, helping countless individuals break free from their limitations and embrace their true selves. Jason Nelson, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Ian, for having me on here today. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. So I'm going to tell the audience the same thing I told you. Guys, I am working with a little bit of a little voice issue, but we're going to push through like we always do on Positive Persistence, and we're going to move forward. So with that being said, now, Jason, for those of us that don't know you that well and may not have seen a full body picture, you guys, Jason is jacked. He's a big dude. They may not believe the question I'm about to ask you, but growing up as the youngest of 8 in Trinidad, you actually faced some bullying and feelings of inadequacy. Can you share how those experiences shaped your journey into fitness and the work that you do now?
I think we should start when I entered into high school, or in Trinidad, it's like a combination of middle and high school. My grades and my test scores were well enough for me to enter into school across the island. So I'm from the central part of the island, and I was sent to school in the city. Country boy, city lights, far away from home. Strange enough, the school I went to was known for academics, but there were a lot of guys there who were, right? So it's a combination of guys who were bad. They were just like bad boys, but they had a lot of, they were smart. I found myself there, I'm smart too, but here I am, 125, 130 pounds, 5'6", amongst these aggressive guys, and being from the country and being so far off, I'm trying to gain some type of respect, not in a bad way, but just to ensure that, I don't get left behind or forgotten,
or simply just try to fit in.
Just try to fit in, dude. Just try to have, because it's 5 years we're going to spend at this school. Mm-hmm. You want to ensure that you find yourself in the right group. It's a comfortable environment. And if you have kids, if the environment is not friendly, it's not conducive to learning and growing. Like, you're going to have a hard time because you spend a lot of time at school, 5 days a week, right? I was always good at sports. And one day in school, these guys were arm wrestling. I decided to arm wrestle. And I was such a smaller kid that they would easily pin me down. That kind of sucked. And at that point in time, I'd be going all over the place, but my dad was in the insurance industry. Regularly, he would have his agents come to the house and he would do extra work with them. And my brother got this old weight set, and it happened to be hanging around in the living room. And during one of my dad's meetings, I was in the living room looking at this weight set. I'm like, what do you do with this? One of my dad's agents saw my interest, and he walks across to me. I will never forget this. Tall, black guy, 6'1", 6'2". He looks at me. He said, if you pick up this barbell and you do like this, and he proceeded to show me an arm curl, he said, your arms would get stronger. I was like, let me give this a try. And I started doing it. And every day I did a little bit. And then I went back to school to arm wrestle. And these guys would be like, nah. I'm like, come on, let's try this. And listen, man, behold, these big guys couldn't put me down at all. And they looked at me and they were like, whoa, what the hell are you doing? At that point in time, I knew that this would be my new identity. Not so much for the aesthetic part of it, but for the strength and for the recognition and the respect that I gotten from these much bigger guys. And that was the spark that shaped my destiny, that put me forward. That was the catalyst that created that turning point for me, that gave me that new identity, that became what became my new identity.
With that story, that reminds me of, being both of us in and from the fitness industry, being able to help people transform, being able to help people achieve something that they weren't able to achieve on their own, and seeing that spark in them. When back that day, you were able to win your arm wrestling, competition with these guys. What did that do for your self-confidence? Yes, it was great that you were able to, pin this guy down, or he wasn't able to pin you down in that moment. But outside of that, what did that do for, high school age Jason and his belief in himself, because he was able to achieve something he wasn't able to do before?
Man, like at that point in time, I was so smiley on the inside, but I got to pretend to be tough on the outside. I went back home and I was like, this thing worked. Now, what can I do? How can I continue to layer on this little win? How can I stack those wins to move forward, to create something even bigger for myself? I started having this bottled, enthusiasm for achievement. And even though it took years later for me to actually put on weight and muscle that was visible, I was growing stronger and stronger by the day, every week, every month. And I realized that if I could apply this to this aspect of my life, what else can I apply this win to break through any plateaus or hit any goals? I was happy.
What values maybe did you learn from that? And what do you still carry with you today from that lesson?
The longest journey starts with the first step. Although none of us could see a few steps ahead. We just need to take the first one. And although a task might seem insurmountable, it's only insurmountable if you don't attempt it. Like, once you step into the arena and you realize that you could throw a couple punches and you could land a couple punches, I think that's enough motivation and evidence for anybody to pursue anything that they want.
I love that you use the word evidence, because a lot of us have fear, right? Which is false evidence appearing real. What do you say to those of us who are stuck on the outside of the arena? We want to accomplish something. We want to change something in our lives, whether that is our physical fitness, whether that's our relationship, whether that's our success in business, whatever it is. How do we get ourselves to where we feel comfortable enough to get uncomfortable enough to step into the arena? Because that's where the magic happens, right? Like, we don't know if we don't know, right? The saying with basketball is you're going to miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
Correct.
How do you build up the courage to take the shot and be okay if you miss, and then go back and do the work and do it again?
I love what you said before about being comfortable, being uncomfortable. I think that's key here. And I always liken it to this. There's a saying that there's a reason why the windshield of your car is much bigger than the rearview mirror. Because you should look forward and spend more time looking forward and less time looking back. But I have a different take on that. If you're not sure of your next step going forward, the evidence you will get from looking back to where you started to where you are right now, you could trust that if you took those steps, like in hindsight, like if you took those steps to reach and achieve what you have right now, more than likely that evidence is showing you that if you take the next step, you will still be in the right direction. The past determines the future. And if you're comfortable, if you are where you are right now because of the steps that you took in the past, all you need to keep doing is trusting in yourself. The worst thing that could happen is that you make a mistake. So what? You keep moving forward. If you don't take that step, you would never know what that mistake might be or would be. The sooner you make that move, then you'll know if you're going in the right direction or not. But trust in the steps that you have taken before. That's my guiding light. That's my principle.
That's so important to be able to look back and notice the small wins that you have been able to stack before and gain confidence knowing that you've been able to do it before, you can do it again.
100%.
Now, talking about overcoming fear and having to get uncomfortable, moving from Trinidad and Tobago to the United States had to come with its own set of challenges. And I was hoping you could tell us, like, how did you navigate the cultural adjustments, the obstacles, and eventually building your career in fitness?
Whenever I'm faced with something that's very difficult, I always tap into that feeling that I had when I moved to the United States. That was the absolute hardest thing I had to do in my life up to this point. I believe that you need to have that one thing if you're comparing something to. That's crucial. I always tap back into that. Getting to the United States was very different from living in Trinidad. For one, I had my own construction company. So I didn't have an employer. I made the decisions. I called the shots. Yes, I worked hard. I'm no stranger to hard work. But getting to the United States, I had to start at the bottom of the ladder. I had to figure stuff out. And quickly, 25 years old, I was like, I don't think I'm cut out to starting over. Like, that was really, really hard for me. And I went through this period of doubt and I would say fear. And I had to stick through it. Like, I just realized, like, this is where I'm at right now. I'm not going to give up. So I started back into the construction industry. And that was a terrible experience. My wife at the time decided that she said, hey, you're an athlete, you play sports, get into fitness, you love it. And that started my journey into the fitness industry. After that, a couple of chance encounters or destined encounters with people that really gravitate towards my personality or me, I don't know. And they pushed me in the right direction. I was so fortunate to have a couple good people as I entered the country to guide me along the way. And as I grew in my career, I became kind of rose to the top a bit. And then I remembered it was years after my manager called me and he said, hey, I want you to work with a particular client. After I did the initial orientation, she said to me, she said, hey, I can't work with you at this time. And I said, but you're here right now. She said, I can't. I said, okay, it's fine. I said, well, I can't do it. And she worked with another trainer at the exact same time. And he looked very different than I did. We're talking openly. We're speaking openly. I experienced a bit of racism then. And I told myself, I said, hey, I am going to make myself so good that the only reason you would not work with me is because you don't like the way I look or I'm different from you. But my skill set, my education, my technique, I'm going to master every single aspect of that. And that's what I did. I didn't let that affect me negatively. In fact, that lit a spark. That sparked me up to actually do much better. That was one of the changing points or the turning points. It made me more educated, acquiring more skills, and moving my career and the business forward.
That's the definition of turning pain into purpose, right? And using that feeling, those emotions as fuel to push you forward instead of allowing them to hold you back. So instead of allowing life to happen to you, you made it happen for you. And I just want to highlight that for all of our listeners and our viewers. Like, when you are going through it, do your best not to wallow in those emotions. Acknowledge those feelings of hurt, of anger, of frustration, but then let them go and then use them as fuel to propel you forward. Because if you sit in them, what good is that negativity going to bring you? None. But if you can do what Jason did and use that as fuel to propel you forward, man, then, the sky's the limit, right?
Yeah, definitely, man. Make yourself that good where if you are overlooked, it's not you, it's them.
That's a headspace that I wish everybody could be in. Like they realize that, yeah, it's not always you. Sometimes it's them, and you can't do anything about that, but be the best that you can be. And that's it.
I think people get caught up with contributing circumstances and determining circumstances. Like how someone feels about you can contribute to your journey being more difficult, but it doesn't determine the outcome. And I think a lot of times we think that contributing circumstances are determining circumstances. And we need to just learn to become aware and differentiate between the two. So you can make this more difficult, but you're not making it impossible.
Ooh, I like that. So contributing circumstances differ from
determining circumstances.
Determining circumstances.
Yeah.
That's a writer downer, family. Think about that one. Now, Jason, you getting into your fitness background and into your specialty, you've observed like over the years that women tend to have a more disciplined approach to health and fitness, yet they face more outdated solutions. Can you discuss like the gaps that you see in how women are supported in their fitness journey?
It is one of the major complaints that we get with our female clientele is the fact that they feel dismissed when they approach their doctors or the physicians about stuff that they're facing. From their perspective, the doctors seem to just brush it under the carpet as well. Maybe you need to move more, exercise more, just do this. But they're experiencing, they know that their body's changing. They know that they are pushing as hard as they can push, or they're making as much tweaks as they can. But something still isn't right. It's like my body's not responding and they don't know where to turn. Because every avenue they turn to, it's like, well, it's this and it's that. And it's like, whatever, forget that. Like you're just getting old. You have to accept this as part of age. If you are doing everything that you can possibly do, that would definitely demotivate you. At that point in time, you don't want to do anymore. So for us coaches, we provide a space where we understand, and the training that we have and the education and the programs that we use to coach, this is not how your body is supposed to work. We have women that work out 5 to 6 days a week and they watch your diet and they perform the necessary recovery requirements to achieve this, to keep their bodies running. And yet still things are not working out for them. And then they go to the doctor and the doctor says, well, yeah, it's perimenopause. Okay, yeah. And what's the next step? We provide that space where they could really unpack the symptoms and what's going on. And we're not physicians, but sometimes it just takes a little tweak into the lifestyle or the diet to make such big changes. No offense to doctors. I'm trying to offend anybody. I'm not a doctor. But they know very little, at least from what our clientele said to us. They know very little about how things work outside of medication. And that's where we come in to provide a holistic solution. Because sometimes from a doctor's perspective, if you only have a hammer, everything they see is going to look like a nail. Every ailment to every issue has to have a medication attached to it. That's not the case. That's not always the case. It wasn't always so in your case, right? I listened to your story, dude. It was inspiring. You have to become aware and have some type of will to know that there's other solutions out there beside medications or what one person is telling you to do. You have to advocate for yourself.
If you're listening to this, there's a good chance you're what I call a sidelined achiever. You know you're capable of more, but right now you feel stuck, set back, or like life has benched you. Maybe it was an injury, a diagnosis, a layoff, a failed business, or maybe even a broken relationship. Something knocked you off your path and left you wondering, what now? How do I even start moving forward again? You're fed up feeling this way, but you don't have a clear roadmap out. Here's what I want you to hear. You are not broken. You are not done. You are not disqualified. You're just sidelined. And sidelines are where legendary comebacks are built. And that's exactly why I created the Rinse Method. It's a framework I used to go from being told I'd never run again to crossing a marathon finish line. Rinse is a simple, repeatable process that helps you build real daily resilience. Turn adversity into momentum, tap into the strength you already have, and hold yourself capable doing what once felt impossible. If you're tired of being stuck and you're ready to create your comeback, not someday, but starting now, head over to watchmemindset.com. The name of your business is Body Image Fitness. Can you tell us why you chose to call it that and why you focus on body image and why that's important?
I'm going to give you the truth, and then I'm going to give you what I realized after. I called it body image because I think most people have a negative association with how they look. But I came across a book called Psycho-Cybernetics years later. I think the guy name was Dr. Maxwell Mortz. And he said one thing that stuck with me. He said, when you change the way a man looks, you change more than just his appearance. You change his psyche. He was a surgeon, a plastic surgeon. And then he started realizing when people started looking differently, they started looking outwards differently. Things started happening to them. We have evolved into the second version of body image. In the fact that when you change the way somebody look and you change their confidence, it spills out into every aspect of their life. They show up better for their family, they show up better for work, they show up better for themselves, for their kids. Mm-hmm. Transformation might be external, but it's powered by a deep internal need to fill a gap, something that they didn't have in the past, something that they were missing. And when they experience this transformation, they can actually then become themselves, be the person who they really want to be. And I've seen it happen hundreds of times. People change their body, their personality changes, and they become awesome in every aspect. You know, like a rising tide raises all the ships. And to answer your question, at the beginning, body image was just a cool name. But now I understand it's aligned with our purpose.
Yeah, you are absolutely right. And again, being in that same fitness space and helping people transform, you know, for the longest time, I didn't realize that I've really been a mindset coach all of these years in helping individuals not only transform physically, but more so mentally, and believing that they can achieve things that they didn't think they could do before. And when they start to make that transformation and they start to have their body image change, you're right. How they view themselves changes. How they start to view what they are capable of doing changes. And our goal is to make sure that when people are working out in our gym, that when they leave, they take that with them. Because you're right. That confidence, that positivity is like a pebble in a pond. That ripple effect affects every other aspect of their life because their self-confidence has changed. Their self-belief has changed, which now affects their self-efficacy in being able to achieve different things in their life. And it's so important that people do that work, that internal work to make themselves feel, like you said, the person that they want to be. But sometimes they need help and need a coach. And that's why they come seek people like you out to help them make that happen.
I love that. And I always say, like, I know people who are walking through my door who are going to be successful and who are not. It comes down to three things. One, you show up on time. And by on time, I mean 10 to 15 minutes early. Number two, you show up consistently because you're doing this for you. Number three, you show up with a good attitude. You have these three things. I could teach you everything that you need to do to transform your body, but you got to come with that. I can't give that to you. I got to see that car parked up outside 10 minutes. I got to see that smile when you walk in and like, what are we going to do today? And that's the ingredients that you have to bring to the table. That's innate. That's you. I know I always say I could teach an alligator to bark, but you got to come with that.
Love that. Preaching to the choir here, Jason. Preaching to the choir. Loving that.
Definitely.
Now let's talk about strength training, because obviously that is in your wheelhouse. Now, a lot of women who are coming in to work out with a trainer to get stronger, some of them have the fear that they're going to get bulky, they're going to get too big, right? And their body image is going to be one that's too manly. How do you overcome that fear and let them realize that strength training is actually really important? It's not just about doing endless amounts of cardio, but it's really important to increase your strength, not only for now, but for also longevity's sake.
Well, I do that two ways. One, I'll show them, and they would see other women working out next to them who are moving serious weight that look like everyday women. Like, you would not know these women are this strong if you see them on the street. No, they look fit, but they don't look like that image of a bulky, of being masculine. And number two, I explain to them, I teach them the science behind it. What we're doing here is strength training, but we're not training for hypertrophy. We're not trying to overload the muscle with limited rest, where the muscle has to hypertrophy. We're doing strength work. So once we get them past that initial phase where the body's prepped and the tendons are prepped and the joints are ready to move to a high intensity program, once you're working within that 4 to 6 rep range and you're training the entire body, each muscle group doesn't have time to grow. You're training the entire body as opposed to training a particular muscle group. So you're doing more vertical loading as opposed to horizontal loading. Horizontal loading creates hypertrophy. Vertical loading doesn't. And once we keep the rep range low, the intensity high, usually about 80 to 85% intensity, you don't have that hypertrophy stimulus, but you do have the stimulus for strength. Because what we're trying to do is to signal the nervous system to be more efficient at moving the load. Better rate code, better motor unit synchronization, teaching the muscle to fire better intramuscularly and intermuscularly as well. Once they agree to a little bit on your side, the evidence takes care of the rest. Look at how you look now, lifting 40 pounds. Look at how you look now, deadlifting 185 pounds. You're 20 pounds lighter. You look better. You're slimmer. You're leaner. You have a little bit of definition. You look feminine. You don't look masculine. So look in the mirror. How do you like that? They're loving it.
Now, what you have just described, I imagine, is the work that you do called the Human Optimization Project. And I'm wondering, how do those elements that you just talked about contribute to a life that is fulfilling and keeps you capable throughout life?
Philosophically, well, we work hard to build the life that we want. We go to school. We have this long career, start a family. The last thing I think anybody wants is to not enjoy the fruits of their labor. That's the mindset piece. Like, you want to enjoy the life you worked so hard to build for as long as you possibly can. 30,000 foot approach. You want to shrink the period that you can experience chronic disease, the chronic disease window, and move that as far down to the end of your life as possible, giving you more vitality and strength for as much of your life as you can. That's a top-down approach. Now, as you enter the program, first thing that we want to do is ensure that you are the right, I would say, height to weight ratio. So We're not talking about 10 to 12 pounds a weight loss. If you got 20, 30 pounds to lose, we got to take care of that first. Because the first step to longevity, as we teach it, is metabolic health. You got to have your numbers in check, triglycerides, H1AC, fasting insulin, fasting glucose, waistline circumference measurements. You got to get that in check. And most people stop there. And we teach, I say, listen, fat loss is just the entry point. And here's why. Most of my really successful stories, when they came to me the first time, they didn't speak about weight loss or fat loss. They spoke about, their concern was, how can I keep my function for as long as I possibly can? Now, I know that when we check all the boxes, your body is going to change. This is what we're going to do. We have the ability to not live up to our fullest potential. Like nobody tells us fish how fast it could swim or a tree how big it could grow, but we'll constantly tell ourselves that we can't. And when you set weight loss as the end goal, as the end optimization, you always go up and down. That's like a never-ending seesaw. I set the stage. I said, listen, this is your first point. This is your entry point. Once we get you down to your ideal weight, we need to start layering on strength. We need to start layering on mobility. Because as you get older, you are going to lose muscle mass. You are going to lose movement. Our goal is to preserve that. And for myself, we do epigenetic testing. And being a bodybuilder, I always optimize for muscle mass and being lean. And when I did my biological age versus my chronological age test, the number scared me. What we optimize for is what we get, right? I looked at my muscle and bone scores. They scored as a 39-year-old. Now I'm 45. When I look at my brain scores scored at 44. My mom right now is battling dementia. That was like a kick in my gut. I was like, wow. I took a deep breath. I'm like, all right, Jay, let's figure out what you need to do for yourself. What we don't know can kill us. So we got to dig deeper. My body's looking right aesthetically, but my brain is aging faster. What's the sense of deadlifts if it can't ward off dementia? So once you optimize for aesthetics and you achieve some metabolic health, you need to start going under the hood and projecting and looking at the things that you normally wouldn't look at. Because I could personally tell you and tell the audience, not because you are lean and strong, that everything is working the way it's supposed to work. Organ systems age differently. Muscle system age differently. Blood system ages differently. Brain system ages differently. You got to go looking for it. You got to find it. And you got to start working at it.
Now, something you mentioned the last time that we spoke, I thought is really important. And you talked about the importance of expectation, right? Because now we're talking mindset stuff. I wonder how, when you're working with your clients, to the story you told me, this young lady that you were talking about that had the expectation that something wasn't going to work and nobody showed up. And you were like, you prepared by expecting it not to work.
Right, yeah.
Why are you surprised that it didn't? Right. So let's talk to that. Talk to the mindset of expectation and how you help your clients stay on track to achieve their goals by expecting the correct outcomes.
Disempowered expectations always end in retreat. Like if you don't
say that one more time.
Disempowered expectations always end in retreat.
Disempowered expectations always end in retreat. Another writer downer, everybody. That was going. Okay.
So when you pull up to a corner or a traffic light and your light says green, you expect the person on the cross street who has a red to stop. So that's why you step on the gas, you listen to your tunes, because that is supposed to work.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And when it doesn't, and then when, you expect it, you go straight ahead and it's fine. And when you don't expect it, when it doesn't work, it ends up bad. But I'll tell you the story. I was coaching this one young lady, and we would meet every Sunday via Zoom. And we were on a weight loss program. And she's doing well. She's one of my best. She's one of my best students in the state. And she had something that she wasn't supposed to eat, and it started causing some gut issues. I'm checking in on her every week. I meet with her on Sunday. She's like, well, my weight is still the same. I was like, okay, no problem. It's like, just continue doing what you're doing. Checked in with me again on Sunday after. Her weight didn't budge. I was like, I looked at the plan. I looked at what she's doing. I'm like, we're fine. I was like, you know what? We're good. Just keep doing what you're doing. The third Sunday, she checked it, and we'd finally moved. And I said to her, I said, I appreciate your patience. I said, I know it's going to work because I've been here and I've run this play before. I said, but you didn't know that. I said, thank you for believing and trusting in me that we just continue doing what we're doing and it would work. When it comes to coaching and managing expectations, from a tactical perspective, there's always some boxes that need to get checked. The responsibility. This is a coaching relationship. You and your client, that partnership, that relationship must harmonize and must work well. And there's certain boxes, as I said, that needs to be checked. And once we are checking these boxes, things are going to work, especially if it's in an arena where you have done this dozens and hundreds of times before. Now, sometimes you have a case where it's a little more difficult. I always have my person, my client, I said, listen, are you doing this? Are you doing this? Are you doing this? And we go through this list of stuff that we need, requirements that we need to meet. And as long as they're there, they meeting these requirements, they make progress. And when they're not, I say, hey, we didn't meet this requirement this week. What's the issue? And then we work through that issue. And then if they didn't get the result that they wanted, it's because we didn't put the inputs. This is the output that you want. You didn't put in the inputs. Let's figure out why you failed with this input, or what stopped you. What was the hindrance this week? Let's work through that and let's keep it moving. That's why I manage expectations tactically. This is what we need to put in, and this is what we're going to get out. Most of the times, it works. As a coach, sometimes it doesn't.
One of my coaches, one of my mentors has a saying that I believe embodies expectations. And it's when you are working towards something that you want to achieve, you have to understand that you need to have long obedience in the same direction with aggressive patience.
Right.
Meaning that you are willing, and that is a Ben Newman saying. That's his quote. Long obedience in the same direction with aggressive patience. Understanding that you should expect is going to take time, but knowing that if you continue to do the work and you do what you're supposed to do over and over again, eventually you're going to get there.
And definitely. It's like whenever you decide on a goal, you also inherit problems on your way to that goal. It's like a PB&J sandwich. Problems, goal. The two always comes together. So you have to know that you're going to be solving some problems on your way to achieving what you set out to achieve. Like whenever you intend to do something, you always expect to get disrupted. Just expect to get disrupted. Expect road bumps, expect obstacles. And that's okay, because if it was easy, as they say, everybody would do it.
That's right. Well, Jason, I want to thank you so much for joining us today and taking time out of your busy schedule to drop some knowledge with us. And I want to give you an opportunity to let our viewers and our listeners know where they can find out more about you and Body Image Fitness.
Yes, you could find me at bodyimage.health. That's my website. You could find me on Instagram at JNelson, Nelson 0580. You can find me there. Send me a message. I would love to connect, love to have a conversation. My passion is to help people. Even if I can't help you directly, even if I can make you aware and point you in the direction where someone else can. I believe that every conversation, interaction is an opportunity to leave someone better than you found them. So reach out, please.
Spoken like a true coach. All right, guys. Thank you so much. I want to thank our listeners and viewers for joining us as well. And we'll wrap this up like we always do. Remember to stay positive, stay persistent, and know mindset is everything. We'll see you next time.
Thank you for tuning in and being part of the Positive Persistence family. We're having a great time creating this content, and we truly hope it inspires you to embrace positivity and persistence in your own journey. If this podcast episode inspired you or entertained you, scroll down, hit those stars, and leave a comment. Your 5-star reviews and shares encourage us and help us grow the show. So until next time, stay positive, stay persistent, and remember, mindset is everything.